For many of us, AI is scary or overwhelming. But my guest today talks about using AI to make a better world. And that's Rick McCawley. He's a Pulitzer recognized photographer, educator, and visionary, and all around good guy. We've been having a lot of fun talking. And I think you're going to find a lot of energy in our collaborative conversation to reframe AI as something that can help us make a better world. So welcome, Rick. It's so great to have you on Video Mojo.
Oh, hey, thanks, John. Absolutely. We've been talking for just a short bit of time, and I feel like I found a brother of a different mother, in this whole AI space and just in life, right? And I'm a
Yeah.
positive guy. So, the rocket ship metaphor I think really works. I've used it a lot, maybe overused it perhaps. But Steve Jobs said that bicycle of the mind was what a computer was. And what we've got here, and so if you're an educator like I am, so 25 years I teach graphic design at Broward College in Florida. And in that time, I've gone from a world where every graduate came out of there getting a desktop publishing degree and they went to work for print. Zero are left doing that. Then you had the web comes along. And so everybody was a web designer. And now we can automate web design. And so now we're going into the AI world where anything you can imagine is possible for designers. But we have to change and shift. We've got to learn, adapt, and innovate. That's my mantra. So, yeah, the rocket ship is imagine that you were teaching your students how to ride a bicycle. That's not that dangerous, and they can kind of pick it up over time. Or let's say that you're guiding them to learn how to do driver's education. I've used that metaphor too, because it's like, when do you trust them to drive on their own? How much training do you do before you send them out to do something specific? But now you've got a rocket ship, which educators don't even know how to drive.
Right.
Honestly, so it's people like you and I that hopefully are trying to make the difference and get people over the fears because rocket ships can explode on launch. I mean, just ask
We've all
anybody at
seen it.
Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
And then at one point, you get to a point where you can take a pair of chopsticks and you can capture a rocket as it's landing and reusing it. I mean, so that's where we are. We're in the learning phase and we don't even know what we don't know. So it's scary. So a lot of my educator friends just like don't even want to hear the word, Johnny's cheating. So that they abdicate their responsibility. Well, educators are born with one responsibility. We don't do it for the money, by the way, because God knows that ain't happening. We do it because we're purpose built to go on this earth and to make it a better world for everybody and prepare our students for their future, not our past. And the past
Well,
is happening like yesterday was like years ago. We're literally at 1,000 times the speed of what we went through in 20 years of the internet age and 200 years of the industrial age. We're now going to a phase where in 2 years, we've compressed all that and a lot more.
so you
So,
and I are you and I are so enthusiastic about it and see these possibilities really for a better humanity and certainly for the empowerment of
yeah,
creative work. But the
yeah.
bias in society is so negative. And is that just a negativity bias, or is that all the sci-fi HAL in 2001, Terminator, they're coming
Uh,
to get us kind of, the fictional
so
cultural overlay?
the yeah, I think the big picture think about this is two things. One, human beings don't evolve that quickly. I mean, we still got 2 ears, don't really need them. We got a pancreas. We got stuff that we don't really need in our body, even, right? So physiologically, we don't. Mentally, we're still struggling with the whole social media age. I mean, take a look at political discourse in America today. And there's a perfect thing
No,
that,
no, thank you.
somehow, right? Or not.
The shit show, as I
That's where
call
I'm
it.
going
Go
to
ahead.
bury
I'm
my
sorry.
head in the sand for a little bit to see how this works out later on. I feel like I'm in the pandemic. I can't go out and talk to anybody because I might say something, provocative. Or you become a dangerous person and say that, look, if I don't do it, who's gonna? So I look at the whole shift right now is a responsibility. The educator has the responsibility to prepare them for their future, even though we don't know what it is. You just got to go voraciously for the cutting edge. Now, the reason why I happen to be good at it, and I'm curious to find out why you're so good at this. this learn, adapting, and innovating is I grew up 6 weeks old. I was in Japan for 4 years. And my dad was in the military. He was installing nuclear weapons systems for Japan to protect themselves. And then he went over to Greece and he took out the Turkish nukes, He took them out of Turkey during the Cuban Missile Crisis and he put them in Greece. And then the overthrow of the government while we were there happened, and they kicked the king and queen out. And the colonels right while we were in the middle of his tour of duty, and we
So you
lived on
think
the beach. And
that's made you good at AI?
well, wait for it. So here's where it gets good. So I come back to the United States in 1968, right when the moon landing happened, right? So the first time I saw a black person, we were in Alabama and I was going to school, and I had this major education with nuns and, hitting your wrists and stuff like this. And with other, it was all it was an elite school that I went to. And then I'm going to an all black school because I was bused. And I never met a black person in my life because I was living in Japan and Greece. And then there's the middle of the riots happening around me. So learn, adapt, and innovate. Holy cow. And then I go work we settle in Gainesville. My dad has an insurance company, wants me to take that over. And I said, no, I want to go do something exciting. So I spent a summer trying to be an insurance guy. Well, anyway, I'll land the plane quickly here. So then I decide, no, I want to work for the Miami Herald as a photojournalist. So I photographed the Cuban boat lift. I photographed first space shuttle launch. I photographed Mel Fisher finding the Atocha. So I have this I photographed a couple of popes, all the presidents, President Carter and Reagan for United Press International. It was like crazy, right? And then I started doing desktop publishing, and I brought my Mac Plus in and I paginated the Miami Herald. 600 people lost their jobs that did manual paste up. So talk about, a nexus point. So I leave there because I'm making like 10 grand a week just for teaching people how to do desktop publishing, which now you can automate the process anyway.
The Miami Herald was paying you 10 grand a week?
No, I left the Miami Herald to go be a consultant in the desktop publishing space.
Oh, so as a desktop publishing consultant.
Yes. So Fortune 500 companies paid me $2,000 a day to teach 10 people in a room how to run Photoshop, Illustrator. I guess it just come out, and was it PageMaker? I think at the time. Yeah. So it was all that, but nobody knew it. And so I was all of a sudden, it's like, swimming in money. And then I leave there. And right now, the Miami Herald has no building, has no helicopter on the roof, has no, circulation of 1 million. It's basically live and work out of their homes on their laptops. There's no public meeting space for any of the Herald people. And it's 1/10 the size of what it was. So if you don't learn, adapt, and innovate, like newspapers did very poorly, circulation is down 89% from when I worked there. And there's 4 photographers where there were 70.
So
Just to give you an
basically
idea.
you're talking about a story of survival. Like when I've been
Exactly.
doing my course recently, Prompted to Create for marketers, I make the
Right.
comparison that, if you're going to hire a marketer or hire a marketing writer, whatever, are you going to hire the one
Right.
that knows AI or the one that doesn't know AI? So from
And
a
that's
career point of
that's the
view, I think
metaphor of the
it's a
day, isn't it?
necessity, right? It's a defense strategy.
Yeah. So you're not going to get replaced by AI, but you're going to be replaced by somebody who knows how to use AI. Because the bottom line is it's the human story that we're telling each other. If you even think about money, money is a construct of human creation. There's no real money. It doesn't really have a value. It's not really based on a gold standard. Even education, it's an agreed upon set of so if you think about it's Mario Brothers and you're picking up little pellets to go faster and longer, right? So if you get a degree, then you can go further and have more success. So
Theoretically.
entire life is a construct of our storytelling and us inventing worlds. So here's what's interesting. What if we got to change education and invent the story of what is education and where do we get our values? Imagine if
In an AI age, right?
because if we're not driving the rocket ship, to get back to our first metaphor, and we allow it to do it, it's going to look at, how we've been driving the rocket ship and keep driving that way, but with a lot faster, a lot more power, which means Terminator is imminent. because
Yeah, so I wanna
we're
I
just
wanna
at
pick
that.
up on your thread about the stories, because the story that a lot of people are telling about AI is a destructive, dangerous, "Oh my god, it's gonna
Yeah,
ruin everything." And I wanna bring up a comment that you actually this week put on a post that I had on LinkedIn. It was about
right.
a video editing software, but, you talked about I'm gonna read it. "The true measure of AI isn't genius or AGI, it's how much it lightens your load. When technology actually shortens our workday, clears friction, and frees your mind, that's when it matters. Forget the distant dream of superintelligence. The real revolution is in life made easier here and now."
And more beautiful, right? I mean, that's what we want. How many of you struggle
Wait,
with
how
two
I'll
tac
I'll I'll grab that. How has AI made your life more beautiful, specifically?
well, for me, fundamentally, I spend 24/7 in conversations about things I wanna know. I have a voracious appetite for knowledge. I feel like I've earned 5 PhDs in the last month alone. Because if you talk to it the right way, and that is, here's a perfect prompt. In fact, here, go out and practice this right now yourself. You're asking it about your health, right? So I've had some health problems. I was in the emergency room and almost died. Okay. So tell it everything you did leading up to this emergency room visit, and then say, what did I not do right? And what did the doctors not even catch? It turns out I was taking try to make this short. It turns out I was taking Monjuro, which stops up your whole bowel movements. And what happened is I went off of it and then back on it because the supply wasn't there because people try to lose weight with it, right? So this Monjuro drug basically shuts it down and says, you're full. So it piled up the poop in my bowels and sent my brain into shock, because ammonia and gases came from that piled up for 4 days in a row. I was constipated. I'll keep it polite here. So I got 295 was my sugar. Okay. The doctor said, I didn't even know that was humanly possible. You should be dead right now. Like, that's not a number. It's supposed to be 100, 70 to 100, right? Okay. So had little sugar problems before, but nothing that severe. And my brain was completely shut down. Thank God my roommate, 4 o'clock in the morning, we're sitting in the ER. So what do? They pump saline through me, just water, salt. And it gets it back down. And so they can release me at 167. Boom. 3 hours later, releases me. So I go home and I'm getting sick again. It's all starting all over again. And I'm like getting ready to vomit and getting dizzy and everything. And then I thought to myself, well, I've been constipated. So I took an X-Lax and I asked AI, I said, hey, what's going on? I keep having these recurring, constipations followed by diarrhea, constipation. And now I'm in the hospital and I took my blood pressure. I did every hour. I said, you need to rehydrate. So I followed its instructions. I said, literally every 20 minutes, I gave it all of my vitals constantly, my temperature, my everything, right? And it kept finding these things. And then I loaded up all my vitals from before. And then I loaded everything that I'd eaten, drank, and everything. And when I went to eat yogurt, yes, you can eat that yogurt, but don't eat that yogurt. Like, I literally asked it every 10 seconds. And then finally it said, I'm feeling constipated. Should I take an X-Lax? And I said, oh my God, that's probably the problem. And then when I did a triage, so the doctor didn't catch that. The doctor didn't catch that all of that was backing up. And all the pills, I'm taking 7 different medications, all together made literally ammonia went to my brain and shut it off. So I had no abilities of brain function. My liver was about to shut down, and I was imminent heart attack. And all it took was an X-Lax. So it's what you don't know. Um, but 24/7, I've got that doctor there. I didn't have to spend $500 to go down there
And
and sit
that
for 4
doctor you're
hours.
referring to is ChatGPT.
Yeah. So it depends on how you use it. And
And we're not giving medical advice here, folks.
no, 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 no. And in fact, what I've done since is my doctor is an endocrinologist, and I found out that doctoring is a problem in America. First, it's not free. So that different disenfranchise a whole bunch of people. I mean, we could go on. So is it making my life easier? Well, no, I think what's making life difficult is other human beings not doing or being the most efficient version of themselves. I imagine a world where I work with a doctor, but I've collected all the data every day for 24/7. So I wanted to get from my doctor a patch that checks my glucose because I don't have time to prick myself 5 times a day. So what if I just had a monitor? And then my agent collected that along with what I ate. I'll photograph every piece of food I put in my mouth. I'll tell you how my Fitbit tells me or my Apple Watch, right? And then I could go in with everything that he's ever known, my 23andMe genomes and my ancestry of every medical record I've ever had. And then I could put it in one thing and then give him a note. And I'm like, that would be it. Now I've taken agency over my own life. So the first step, I think, to truly getting to this beautiful world, I imagine, is we each individually take responsibility for ourselves. What's not working for you that's causing your death? You got to fix that first, right? When you look at bias or the big problems is hallucination. We hallucinate. We're biased. We easily are persuaded with fake information. Just look at propaganda. We still
Yeah,
haven't
that
learned
that that's a really big problem. You're shifting now into
yeah,
another gear, and I wanted to talk about that because it's like, I mean,
truth.
there are very serious instances of suicides, for example. And I think the
Yeah,
fundamental thing is that people don't realize that they have to treat a computer like a computer. I mean, it is a little scary, Rick, I'll be candid in terms of you talking
yeah,
about making ChatGPT your doctor.
right.
And
Well,
like you said,
uh,
people don't know what to believe and what not to believe anymore.
right. So, two things. The AI companies are working extremely hard. In fact, you know why it hallucinates? This is from OpenAI just a month ago. They said, so if you're taking an SAT test, right? And you got 4 possible answers. You're not quite sure. It's either 2 or 3, and you guess. There's no penalty for guessing. Now, what reinforcement language is, the thing learns about all the information. And when it doesn't know the answer, it just guesses because it's never been slapped on the wrist whenever that happens. So OpenAI just a month ago realized this is the problem. So they started introducing severe penalties if you hallucinate. And they gave the model the option to say, I'm not sure, let me investigate more. So they first said reasoning is the thing. So it would so when you heard about 6 months ago, the new models, ChatGPT 5 came out, they said it's reasoning. All of them had reasoning. What is reasoning? It asked the question from one perspective and then the other, is this true? It fact checks itself. Well, it turns out it can check itself and it can still guess or hallucinate. So they're retraining all the models and they're starting and they're saying, if you get it wrong, we're going to have another bot over here that's the police. And every time it's going to slap you hard, send you back to grade school until you build your brick house, right? So
So
with
so
human being, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so the AIs are definitely gonna get better and more accurate. But I
absolutely.
think the foundational point that you made earlier about we have to take responsibility, we have to take agency,
Yes.
is a super important thing. You talk about we have to become the navigator of the spaceship. Because
Yeah.
when we look at now, I wanted to shift gears a little bit towards video. When we look at the deep fakes, we really are
Yes.
moving very quickly towards a world where people will literally not be able to tell the difference between what's
Yeah.
artificially generated and what's actually quote unquote real. I say that because I know reality can be very subjective. So how do people deal with a world where there's so much artificially generated media? I mean, you go way back with Adobe and Photoshop and,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know, you're
in fact, I did at least Photoshop was I was like I used Photoshop 1.0. It was actually called Barney Scan was the original one. I used that software. So, when Photoshop was in the news because pictures HDR was happening and, fake pictures were happening all over with Photoshop, okay? So, there was a couple of Pulitzer Prizes that were taken away because There was one of Israel, a guy with a weapon, and there was a man with a child right next to each other, but it was two different frames, and they were composited together. And they moved the pyramids on the cover of National Geographic. So I literally did at least 20 of this photojournalism where I would go speak to these issues. How could they be doing this? What the hell, National Geographic? And so National Geographic, of course, and I know everybody there, including my professor at the University of Florida was Tom Kennedy, who became the director of photography at National Geographic. So, and we're great friends. So,
You're saying this is
and
nothing new, right?
he wasn't there at the time. So it's not his fault. It's about the pyramid. So, because he is super ethical about all this. And Tom, if you're out there, hi. Um, yeah. So, but that was it. I had to answer these questions and kind of, explain it. So here's what I'm going to say about the video. We can detect every single time when it's an AI generated image. What we're not doing is we're
Technically.
not enforcing the responsibility on Facebook to say it is. Now, LinkedIn took the responsibility. So as soon as I put an AI image, you'll see a CR icon in the top right-hand corner. That's Adobe's fingerprint. It says, this is AI, right? Now, what happened in the Clinton administration, and this is really the fix for it. So I'm going to tell you the fix before I tell you what the problems are. And the fix is in Clinton administration, when, in fact, we need to think about this right now. History is repeating itself. They said, hey, the internet's going to be amazing. You're going to be able to call your girlfriend and video chat from China. Did that, right? Like that's what they were imagining, just like we're talking about AI right now. So I'm at the same time both such an optimist, but I'll tell you what I know is going to happen again. So they gave immunity to Facebook, okay, and all social media. If somebody kills themselves because of what you did, you've got immunity. So what happens? So on Facebook, they said they told their AI, anytime someone's on there, get them to stay on longer. And so that's
Somebody
it.
who's in danger of harming themselves.
Well, no, they just said that's what we want to do. We make money the longer eyeballs stay.
Oh, in general. Okay.
How you solve that problem, which is called the paperclip problem. So you tell it to have one goal and it makes the goal happen. What does it do? You have the Rohingyas, who 6 million people died and were displaced because on Facebook they took the one side and made them talk about what evil people the other one, they're going to rape your children and blah blah blah, and they put it on there and they didn't take it down. Any reasonable person would take it down, but they saw rise in international use of the internet and social media. Ka-ching, ka-ching. Outragement equals engagement. Facebook says ka-ching, 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 and they have immunity. So the idea of the 132 parents of children who killed themselves because when they were ideating about suicide, literally, and I'm not making this up, Facebook sent them advertisements for a rope and ways to kill themselves. And then
Awful.
Zuckerberg, and go back and look at this because it's shocking. He sat in front of Congress and they said, all this stuff is happening. And here's 30,000 emails inside Facebook by the whistleblower. Look that up too. And so Congress listened to the whistleblower go on for how social media is doing all this stuff, and that they knew there was a problem. They knew that teenagers should not be on social media, because if you're sent, outragement is engagement, and that's your attention span, then your world's filled with that. You're going to kill yourself. And we're all killing ourselves with politically activated social media so that fake news becomes superpowered. So here's the solution. It's as simple as this. You're responsible if somebody kills themselves if we can prove that it's because of you. Facebook would be sued out of business instantly, and LinkedIn would be safe. Why? Because they put the little thing up there that says, this is fake news. Or they have to actually think and look at They've got to triage. Is this dangerous for humans? Should this be allowed with teenagers? And they got to stop thinking about the bottom line. So if we are, and this is
Yeah,
the
but
big,
wait, that who's going to stop? It's like we live in a country, a capitalistic country. I mean, it's the same thing that people have been talking about this week with Jimmy Kimmel. It's like the
that's it.
dollars are
That's it.
more important than the First Amendment rights.
Well,
That's
that's what's
that's
got
how
to
they
change
act.
right today. So I
But
live in a
that
world.
so far, I'm not optimistic, Rick.
No, and capitalism by itself is not wrong. It's the privilege that greed is good. Now, if you ever saw the Wall Street movie, right? Greed is good, right? Gordon Gekko. That was our up, or a fuck up, excuse me. That's it. That's it. That's the moment where it's an extraction economy. So a corporation can take from the earth more than they deserve to take and not fix it. Number one. Number two, they can fire all their employees because AI will replace them. Number three, they can treat their customers like Facebook does, extract from them instead of giving them something. All you got to do is flip those three things right there. That's it. There's
That's
a
all you got to
solution to
do.
capitalism.
But that's a big
That's all you
ask.
got to do.
So
Well,
so I
okay.
mean,
So let me
before
suggest.
we run out of time, I want to
Okay.
navigate a little bit over towards education. But what we
Yeah.
haven't answered,
Same thing.
you went to the big picture of society, but we're going to be living in an internet for a long time, I think, as far as I could tell, the foreseeable future, where these images aren't going to all have the little stamp to identify.
Well,
It's already
I mean,
happening
that's
over,
where the
in
responsibility.
at scale.
Who owns the responsibility of fixing capitalism so that it is an additive process instead of a subtractive? The same people, and I'll suggest really there's only three laws we got to change in the United States. Number one is take Citizens United away. What did that do? It made it made every corporation a citizen with the rights to take money and pour it wherever they want.
Yep.
They bought the entire government. Okay, take that away. Take away the 2030 document that I talked about with Bill Clinton, and now you've got responsibility, and you're going to get sued by the public. So take away these things. Take
What's
away
the
the
third one?
right. Well, take away the the idea that you're born with rights without earning them or being responsible for the use of them.
The way the corporations
So,
have those rights now.
yeah,
Yeah.
so if it's laissez-faire economics and it's basically extract, 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 how rich can the rich be and how poor can the poor be? And how much can your government take away from grandma or my Social Security that I bought and paid for? They stole the money and spent it elsewhere. They
Right.
didn't
So,
balance their checkbook.
right. All
I
right.
mean, I
So,
don't have to convince you, but so it's
no,
a
no, I know
fundamental
we're
switch.
we're clearly in agreement. It's just a matter of, so the
Yeah,
citizens have to take responsibility for that,
that's
and
it.
for making
And
the
get into
change in
good
the
trouble and
government and
overthrow the government.
electing people with the same kind of values that we're talking about. But in the
But it
meantime, we have
right.
AI and we have social media, and we're living in this world where the government is not taking responsibility to do its job.
Well,
And
and
so
then it's
we
time
all
for a
have to take more
revolution.
responsibility to
That's
go.
it.
If we're talking to AI, we're talking to a
Yeah.
computer. We're talking to a program that is not human, and we have to have the discernment. If we're watching videos, we have to have the discernment that in most
So
cases, like, that it's not a real
there
person.
there's forensic scientists, and I've talked to a few of them recently, that were hired to find, so there's software where you can detect whether it's AI or not. So literally, somebody invents a browser right now that will detect every single picture if it's fake or not. It could be done because there's a pattern in the pixels that is undeniable, right? There's compression and then there's
I don't
AI.
know about that. I would have to be convinced, but it's
Oh,
again
I'll
a
send you the
what if
articles.
scenario, because that ain't happening.
Right. Well, why isn't it happening? Because you can
No,
profit too
no, I
much
said
on the
it's not
opposite.
happening.
Right.
That browser is not being implemented, and nor are you getting people to use it. So let's
But that
before
2030
we let you
document
go,
would,
I want to talk about
yeah,
education, because where
sure.
I see within the agency that we all need to develop, you have a program you're developing, which is where I picked up on the whole rocket ship metaphor,
Oh, okay.
called
Yeah.
you know called the rocket ship for the mind, which is about educating educators about
Yes.
how we use this AI. So how do we get the
Yeah. So
educators on board? Maybe they can help shift the population.
interesting. It's the same solution. Education was designed in 1968 in the state of Florida, and we're still doing that. We were preparing people to be subservient, to obey orders, to sit for 8 hours, 6 hours, so they could work on factory work. That's never changed. We have to change the mindset. So here's my mindset change. It's called designing educational experiences. You're Gandalf, and you send each one of your students on an educational mission to go put that ring in Mount Doom. You make it a big project, and then you prepare them for their journey with food and substance and an understanding of what an important thing it is. Then you throw problems in their way, and you have them do some project. In my classroom, we have created the immigration. So my students were all immigrants from Venezuela recently. So we designed this app called Hello USA. And I had them design it because it matches a current person who got citizenship recently with someone who is navigating that system. It's a simple match in an app, and then you pick them up and you're their sponsor. And then if the government had a back door and said, you're supposed to appear on this day, and you have a English speaking coach built into it for all your kids and your family, every phone gets activated as a transition. And then the human that met you at the airport, that took you into their home while you were finding housing, getting your kids in school, getting a job, that solves it, right? So
Yep,
I gave
designing
them that
educational
mission.
experiences. I get that, it's I'll put in a little self-promotion, which is that inside my, prompted to create course, every module has an exercise because people have to have the experience of what's being talked about. I think most people know rote learning doesn't work, but AI
Yes.
is this
And that
great adventure like you're talking about,
that's it.
and so I think that we all have to become that kind of navigator as well as that kind of
Well,
explorer.
to tie it together, when your experience of life leads to your death almost, when your experience of life means that that student is getting a degree in desktop publishing, you just have to take the responsibility that you clean up your little piece of the world. And in doing so, I've noticed one thing, that if we were like the Native Americans, the Iroquois nation 7,000 years ago came with this one principle. You belong to the world, of service to the world, and you must plan for 7 generations in the future. As a matter of fact, the Iroquois met with Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin. And you know the little line called We the People? Guess who wrote that? So you belong to your community. So always give without thinking of anything else. Be kind to others the way you would want to be treated yourself. These are golden rules that every religion's based upon. And are we practicing any of them? And where in there is it says, extract as much wealth from others as you can? So we get back to first native principles. So it's the same for the Ubuntu. I am because we are. That is African culture, 10,000 years old. Chinese culture, the same thing. Aboriginals and so we got it wrong right a long time ago. Why are we having such problem today? Because we'd rather take than give.
And
But I
so
got to tell you,
AI can help us or hurt us depending on how
yeah,
it's used.
well, yeah. So it's going to amplify whoever you are. You just got to direct that rocket ship to do good in the world. And so that's why I'm literally ravenous. I stay up to 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm crazy enough to think I can change the world. And it's one conversation at a
That's
time and inspiring one person at a time. So, John,
that's the
that's what
quote I've
I
got
love.
behind me here. Is
That's it.
those of us that are crazy enough are the ones that do. Yeah, I mean, an earlier guest on Video Mojo, Judy Russell, a video producer from Ireland, talked about AI is that, it's like if the bad people are going to use it, the dangerous, quote unquote, evil, whatever, that, it's like they're
The
going to
bad,
use
dangerous
AI.
people.
If those who want to make a better world like us don't use
Yep.
it,
Yep.
the result is not something that we want. So I think we all do
And,
need to
and,
take
and the good
responsibility. I really
people, the
appreciate you for
teachers,
underscoring that.
yeah, and the good people, the good teachers are living in fear. And you know what Yoda says about that, right? Fear leads to the dark side. And that's kind of it. So we got Steve Jobs and Yoda to thank for some real brilliance that, helps us rethink what is it to be a crazy one? I can't imagine I can't change the world because nobody told me I couldn't. My mom always said I could, so I'm gonna believe her till my
That's
dying
a
day and
blessing.
try to and namaste to every human being, right? We've all got beauty inside of us, and we've all got some little way that in our small little part of the world, we can clean it up. And then I just wanna be someone who inspires a lot of those people to do just that.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I think you did a good job of bringing it back to the fear versus the creativity, and or as
That's
you
it.
would say, innovation, because
Yep.
that's it's where we focus. It's the stories that we tell, and we can make
And we've
AI. It's set up to do that as much as it's set up to screw things up.
And it's already preventing type 2 diabetes. It's curing type 1 and type 2 diabetes, heart attacks, cancers 40% earlier detection. That means 11 million people are going to live next year that didn't before. So in the next 3 years, we're going to see elimination of all health problems. Fundamentally, they re-engineered the cells so I could produce the insulin my body needs so I won't be a type 2 diabetic. It's not just Ozempic that's a temporary thing only while I'm taking it. It's a cellular level, and we might be able to live to 200 years old. Question is, what are you going to do with that time? Do good things or extract from other people? How greedy can you be, Elon? I'm sorry. Be like,
Donald.
right, and Donald everybody's like and if that's our role model, ooh, what a sad world. Be like Jesus if you want to. Just be about giving. You never
Well, be
heard him make money,
be
did you?
like be like Rick McCawley.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I
I
hope.
I
Thank you
I
for that. That's
appreciate you,
beautiful.
brother. It's, namaste to everybody, no
Likewise.
question. And,
Yeah,
yeah, let's make my old friend Scoop Nisker used to say, "If you don't like the news, go out and make some of your own." And I think that
there you
still
go.
applies, but now in the AI age, we really have the opportunity to make our own media and make our own
We
news and,
do.
be
And
the
there's
people
some
that we're
people
meant to
doing
be that serve humanity first.
beau
Go ahead, Rick. We'll
there's
wrap it
some
up, though.
beautiful there's some beautiful movie production. To get back to film, I believe that every one of us is a Steven Spielberg right now because in our pocket is enough energy to recreate Schindler's List. But that came from his brain and his life and pouring out and getting everybody to work with him. But now you've got a team. So if you can imagine it, you can make it happen. The question is, we're not all LeBron James. We're not all Steven Spielberg, but this allows me to be an amplified version of who I am. And if I'm beautiful, I'm just going to spread beauty across the world. So I
Yeah, and
just want to
it's the
do
human creativity that's essential. AI
right,
doesn't have that. It's our ideas that we're bringing forward, and that's
right.
the call to be more creative and to use AI to amplify. Like you said, you
And
amplify
and
your
for
ideas, I
people
amplify more of me, and so forth
for
down the
people
road.
in the industry of filmmaking, I would not be as scared because James Cameron's vision of Avatar could not be told without the technology. We scaffold, but what's underneath is the human story that resonates throughout times. The hero's journey has been redone again and again, from the Iliad and Odyssey to Harry Potter to Star Wars to, it's all the same story. And we keep telling ourselves the story. The Bible stories just tell us what not to do, right? And then the others, the movie stories are what we can do. And that a young man from the Shire, given the task to go save the world by throwing a ring, can overcome anything with his friends. Collaboration, consensus, build community. He didn't do that by himself, but he did have the strength and power, and that's what the human spirit is. So be like Steven Spielberg. Just get more creative and think about whose story do you want to tell. And I wish he hadn't told the story about the shark because that's got everybody scared about sharks. But
That's the side.
and
But
James
yeah,
Cameron,
it's the
came.
creative ideas that are. I mean, the
Yeah,
ideas,
that's
the human creativity are just essential. Thank you
that's
for
it.
being you, Rick. I really appreciate the
My pleasure.
message. It's good to be together. If you people want more of these kind of conversations, please let me know. And we look forward to seeing you on the next video, Mojo. Thanks for watching or listening.
Thanks, John.